Hey guys, today I thought I'd talk about a gun that's not exactly as rare or unique as some of the other ones I do reviews about, but it's pretty interesting nonetheless, and I didn't see any review videos about them online, and there's just not a lot of information in general about these things online, so I just thought I would do a quick review about it. It's an Ortgies pocket pistol. It's a German gun designed in 1919, striker fired. It came in three different calibers, 25 ACP, 32 ACP, and 380 auto. This one happens to be 32 ACP. And like I said, these aren't exactly rare or unique or anything like that, and I see one or two at probably every gun show I go to. So if you're looking for one of these and you come across one, there are a couple things to look for to kind of help you date the guns. One is on the grip panel here. If you see an OH emblem like this one has, which it took me a second to realize what this was, but it actually is an O and an H interlocked. That stands for Heinrich Ortgies. He was the guy that lent his name to the gun, obviously, designed it, made them for the first year or so. That helps you know that it's an older model versus some of them have a D. The later models have a stylized D written on it. And what that stands for is Deutsche Werke, because eventually the manufacture of these things is taken over by a company called Deutsche Werke Aktiengesellschaft. And this one happens to be interesting because it's a transitional model. You see it says Ortgies and Deutsche Werke on it. They are all Ortgies pistols though. Because some of the later ones, they just have the D and the Deutsche Werke written on it. A lot of people just call them Deutsche Werke guns, or honestly, I've heard some pretty creative pronunciations, Deutsche Werks and all this sort of stuff, but it's Deutsche Werke. But they all are Ortgies pistols. They're the original design, and that's what you're looking at. So, I'll start my review talking a little bit about the looks. It's intended to be a pocketable pistol. That's why it's got sort of a sleek look that it was pretty popular back in the day, I think, to have these kind of sleek pocket guns. So it's got the low profile sights and everything, the snag-free sights, and not a lot of buttons and jags sticking out, safeties and all that, which I'll get into in a minute. It does have kind of an interesting safety, but the 25 ACP model was actually a bit smaller than this one. This one's 32. 380 had the same size frame exactly, but the 25 was just a little bit smaller, kind of like probably intended to be fitted in a vest pocket or something like that. To show you the size comparison on this one, the 32, as usual, I pulled out my Beretta, which I do just because I would say most gun owners have some familiarity with the Beretta 92. Just to give you kind of a look at how big the Ortgies is. So it's not that big really. It's my hand's not really that large, and if that gives you any kind of idea, it's not too thick. It's a little thicker though. I have a Colt 1903, and I think it feels a little bit thicker than that. But it's not a big gun. Weighs about 21 ounces, so it's not overly heavy either. But it does feel nice and solid. It feels very just like tightly constructed, in my opinion. Part of that, it's kind of interesting. There's part of the design with this gun is there are no screws involved. So like you notice on the grip panel, there aren't any screws in it. There are no screws involved in the gun, and you can take the whole thing apart with just pulling it apart. I think tapping out a few roll pins, stuff like that. So it's kind of interesting. Ergonomics on the gun are pretty good, I think. It actually feels pretty good in my hand. Like I said, it feels nice and solid. The weight of it and just the feel of it is good. I'll show you a couple interesting features here. The grip safety is one, I think. And the way that works is, unless you're pushing the safety in with your grip, this squeeze panel here, the gun won't fire. So pulling the trigger here, nothing happens. And I think it's cocked. Let me just make sure. But yeah, so the trigger is not doing anything. But when you squeeze the gun, squeeze the safety in, it sticks in and it clicks, so you don't have to actually apply any pressure. It's like not like a P7 where you're squeezing it the whole time. So once it's in, now the gun will fire. Like that. So, and I know it's not good to dry fire these because I've heard the firing pin is somewhat prone to breaking, so I won't be doing that a whole lot. But anyway, and then to release the safety, you push this button here, and it pops back out, and it's re-engaged. So it's kind of interesting that way. Has a heel magazine release, which was popular on these European guns back in the day. So I kind of like it. It's comfortable and everything. It's not tactical or for fast reloads or whatever, but it's there. So that's the ergonomics of the thing. Feels pretty good, I think. As far as shooting goes, a couple little ergonomic points there too. One is the grip, or the sights are positively tiny, which was kind of a thing back in the day also, it seems like, and especially with these pocket guns. You know, they were trying to make these things so that you could slip it in and out of a pocket easily without snagging and all that. And as you can see, the sights are just minuscule. So it is kind of hard to form a sight picture. When you do, it's really precise though. The gun's really accurate, I think, at least with me, shooting the 32 ACP out of it. It's I don't have any problems hitting anything. The trigger is a bit mushy. I know I said I'm not going to dry fire it a whole lot, but I will a couple times just to show you what it looks like when you pull the trigger. Let's make sure I'm in focus so you can see the pull a little bit. It's pretty mushy. It's not the best trigger I've ever pulled. It's just there's not a lot of feedback. You just kind of pull it back and it goes off. So I think you have that a lot with striker guns especially. But so I wouldn't give it 2 thumbs up for the trigger. It's still pretty easy to shoot accurately though. It's just I think an inherently accurate gun. The sights, they're small but they're precise. The real, I think, the thing you take away from shooting this gun though when you actually shoot it is the slide bite. And it's definitely the biggest shortcoming in my opinion. I can't imagine how people used to shoot these things. You know, they must have just had a much lower grip than we do nowadays. But you know, I'm used to really hiking my hand up on the back here to minimize recoil and, you know, to get better control and everything. But this slide is just so low. Look how low that is. And there are these sharp points on the edge, on the rear edge there. And I just wear a glove whenever I shoot this thing because I just can't. It doesn't feel natural to hold it low enough that I'm not getting slide bite. So I pretty much always wear a glove to minimize that, because the first few times I shot it, it was painful because, you know, my hand was getting torn up so much. And you know, a lot of guns back in the days were like that. I think it was just the technique. People just held the gun lower, you know, down here or something. But it's just not comfortable for me now. You know, nowadays modern technique has you holding it up as high as you can, and this thing just tears the snot out of your hand. So not a lot of fun to shoot because of that. And I always bring a glove if I'm going to be shooting this thing. So that's definitely one of my criticisms of the gun, which is another talking point I usually do in my reviews. That's the main criticism that I have, really. Like I said, it shoots really accurately. It's fun to shoot as long as you're not getting your hand torn up. So wearing the glove, it's actually pretty fun to shoot. Accurate, you know, all that stuff. But criticism, slide bite, definitely. Another thing I forgot to mention, which I was going to talk about, it's kind of interesting, is the magazine. Let's see if I'll get it to show up. Same magazine says 9mm there. That's for 9mm quartz, which is 380 ACP. Same magazine will hold both 32 ACP and the 380. So the magazine's interchangeable. The gun, obviously, you need a different barrel in here, and it is a fixed barrel. I'll rack the slide so you can kind of see how that looks. See, the barrel just stays in place, but so you do have to get the 380 version to be able to shoot 380 out of it, but the magazine is labeled for both, so you could use a magazine in either caliber. Anyway, in conclusion, the gun they're pretty cheap. I got this one, I think, for about $200 a couple years ago. Nowadays I see them at gun shows pretty frequently, and they're usually in the $300 range, $350, something like that. They're not hard to find, like I said. I see them often. And it's kind of interesting that how easy they are to find, but yet how it doesn't seem like a lot of people actually have them. It's decently made, it's accurate, you know. The slide bite is really the biggest drawback of this thing, but if I just wear a glove, it's not a big deal, and it's pretty fun to shoot that way. The magazine holds 8 rounds, and I don't know what it holds in the 380 version, or the 25 ACP version, but yeah, it's just a fun, cheap little gun. It's well made, you know. It's surprisingly well made. It's not. I wouldn't put it in the same league as the Colt probably, but it does feel like a nice, solid gun. So for as cheap as they're going, I don't think they're a bad buy at all. And yeah, it's just a fun little gun. So that's the German Ortgies pistol. Or like I said, you'll see a lot of them that don't have the word Ortgies on them at all, and they'll just say Deutsche Werke Aktiengesellschaft, but it's all the same. It's an Ortgies pistol from the 1920s. So thanks for watching.